Hello, welcome to the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 184 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today, we'll be discussing chapter 40 of A Storm of Swords. That's Bran 3.
And as we usually do, we're going to chat about this chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully, we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll help you if you're not reading along. How are you, Mackelly?
Can I just say how good it is to see you?
Oh, I see. I see where we're starting here. So are we recording a day late because I stood you up? Yes, we are.
Well, things happen, things happen.
Things used to happen, but in the modern world, we're always in touch with one another, unless I go to the pub and leave my phone in the car. And I'm drinking away, and the phone's chirping at me from the car in the parking lot, and I'm ignoring it. And I get back to the car, and I'm like, we were supposed to be recording. I'm so sorry.
The funniest part is you saying to Carson, I swear there's an email or a text or something I was supposed to send.
Absolutely, because the thing is, I knew we were recording that night, and I said, I've something I've got to do before we go out. I don't remember what it was. Let's go drinking.
Well, the worst part about the whole thing was that I told you this when you called groveling and begging for my forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I was playing Golden Tee, which you did not know what Golden Tee was. It is a golf arcade game where you roll the ball, you like push a little rolly ball to shoot to make a swing. And I was having a great round. I was 3 under through the front 9, and then it got to be 7. I turned it off and came in here to get ready to record. And who knows what would have happened on the back 9. Probably I would have blown up and shot a 50, but that was the sad...
I can only apologize again. Your chances for a professional career in Golden Ball, whatever it was called.
Golden Tee.
Okay. By the way, can I say that when we fire up the script for the episode and it says witty banter hyphen and then nothing, I always feel like it's quite a challenge. Here we are.
Right.
Let's be funny off the cuff.
Right. Can we come up with anything interesting to talk about?
Well, we just did a sustainer fireside chat.
We did.
Wild fireside chat, as they're called, which was very fun. And I discovered that I'd never told you that I started a fantasy novel.
That's right. That was... I don't know how. We've been friends for nearly 2 decades.
Yeah.
How has that never come up?
That's weird. In fact...
Yeah.
Those who aren't sustainers should become it just to see the look on Mackelly's face, the agogness of it. It was real,
agog.
People.
It was, and it was a very interesting premise to the story.
Yeah, I was pleased with the premise, and I still am. I'd love to sort of explore it more, So, I mean, for the uninitiated, which is everyone apart from 8 people.
we have more sustainers than that.
Who's listening to the Wildfire Side chats? That's what I'm asking.
Right.
So, the basic premise is you've got one society which is very isolated and very technologically advanced, but because it had no outside threats, it wasn't very military. And then another society that was much more like a regular sort of medieval planet Earth society, which was pretty militaristic, but also a little bit backward. And eventually these two societies meet somehow. And what they find is that the very military one is way behind in a lot of technology, but it also knows how to fight and conquer. And
right.
And so it's a battle between these two things, you see.
Uh-huh. Yes. Fascinating. Can't wait to read it someday.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can read the first couple of chapters. They're not very good. They need an editor, so if you feel like chipping in.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. That'll be my role.
I have to say, I got far more interested in the what can they have invented. So the book consists of 2 chapters and then databases of characters, inventions, Uh,
Right.
oh, astronomy.
I'm sure. I'm
There would
sure
there
there
would
was
be
some
no
astronomy.
astronomy mistakes, let me tell you.
The moon would be where it's supposed to be when it's supposed to be there.
The two moons. How exciting is that?
There's a second moon.
There's going to be a whole appendix on the moons.
Someday we'll have to tell our
Oh,
listeners.
that's a secret never to be shared.
It is a secret.
One
Simon and
of
I
these days.
once went in together on starting a venture, and it was a lot of fun. It
Was
was a lot of fun.
it would have been a heck of a thing had we followed through with
Yes.
it. I
Yeah.
I honestly, given you, I'm surprised we didn't.
You know, I am too.
Yeah,
I am not sure how I let that slide
yeah.
because that's not my nature to
That
let
could happen
things
again.
slide.
I mean, that really could because I too really enjoyed that what we were doing.
Yeah.
So that
We,
I, I'd be willing to dust it off. I still know where it is actually. I still have.
oh,
Oh yeah.
we we can't without divulging what it is. We can't really go into specifics, but
Uh-huh. Well,
someday
someday,
maybe we
yes.
will.
So, Vanessa, could you put this in the database of witty banter? One day we'll reveal this, and we might have forgotten that what we revealed.
I'll have to put it in background.
Yeah. Simon and Mackelly's background.
Yes.
Oh, I accidentally called you my wife's name there. That's pretty impressive.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
that'll
we're
happen.
we're like podcast husbands.
Yeah.
You know. So Molly got her final level of driver's license today.
Oh,
It's
exciting.
called level 3 here in this neck of the woods. But because everything is so just out of whack these days, we had to drive an hour and a half to another town to the DMV because there were just no. We had to reserve this spot like probably 2 months in advance because in our area there just were no appointments out for
Hmm.
infinity. So we drive an hour and a half out of out of town, and she had one job. She had her license. She's had her license since this past summer. We're now into toward the end of March of the following year. She had to simply log 12 hours, 6 of which had to be at night. She's driven, I don't know, 100, maybe 100 hours. And as of last night, she still hadn't logged 12 hours. So she was, it was a fiasco trying to sort this all out. But, we got it all sorted out. And we get there and she's stressing over like, oh, what if the person finds an issue with my log? And, she was so worried and she was like, oh, and I'm going to have to take a driver's test. And we brought Stacy's car. I was like, why didn't you tell me that? We would have brought your car so you'd feel most comfortable in it. We get there and she's all nervous. She's like, Dad, my hands are numb. That's how nervous I am. And, she drove to the town so that she could, well, when
The
she
last
mentioned
hour and
it,
a half of her log done, presumably.
yeah, she didn't even mention it to me that she thought she was going to have to take a driver's test. So it was like,
Just in her defense, didn't that occur to you, McKelly?
well, she already has her primary license. This was just to be able to drive after 9 p.m., basically. So I thought it would have already happened if she was going to have to do it. So we get there and we're sitting and waiting. She's super nervous. Our number gets called. We go up to the desk. The sweet lady behind the counter takes her log, never even glances at it, just puts it, I don't even know, she might have chucked it in the garbage can for all I know. And, then asks me to pay the fee for the new license. Molly has to sign some things and off we go. And it was all this fret and worry for absolutely no reason, it turned out.
I will say the way to do it is to, I mean, Molly is 16.
She is?
Yeah. Uh, just wait until you're 18. Because Lucas did
Man.
none of this stuff. Practice driving with me. And then when he was 18, he walked in there and did a 5-minute driving test and got a full license. No, no.
Oh,
You see?
okay.
Just that lack of ambition just paid off that time. All right. We've dawdled enough.
Yes.
Let's get down to business. How did we leave Brandon Stark? The last we saw of Bran, which is quite a while ago, 16 chapters. Uh,
Yeah.
the Reeds, uh, Jojen and Meera, Hodor and Summer were continuing their journey from Winterfell north in search of the Three-Eyed Crow. They met a friendly stranger who shared news of the realm, and later Meera told the story of the Night of the Laughing Tree at the tourney of Harrenhal, a story the Reeds were surprised to learn that Bran had never heard before. Mackelly, why don't we give them the summary of this one? Can I just say, reading that, I had really forgotten that that was the last Bran chapter.
I know,
Yeah, I mean
right?
that was a long time. I mean, I can forget last chapter. Never mind, 16 chapters ago.
16, 16 weeks ago is a long time.
Exactly.
Okay, so Bran, Hodor, Meera, Jojen, and Summer, same crew, come across a ruined tower sitting in the middle of a lake. An even more ruined village sits near the lakeshore. Bran explains that this area is part of the Gift, a region of the north owned by the Night's Watch. Jojen notices that the land is good, too good to be unoccupied. Bran says the people left because they were afraid of wildling raiders.
Jojen announces that a bad storm is coming and they need to find shelter. There are no shelters in the village with a roof, so Bran suggests that they use the holdfast. The Reeds are confused. They don't have a boat. No worries. Bran knows from an Old Nan story, no less, what tower this is. Queen Alice Sand slept here once, and there's a causeway under the surface of the water that will lead them to it safely.
Meera finds the start of the causeway and leads them safely to the tower, as Bran said it would. Inside the main door, the iron bars are rusted shut, preventing easy access to the tower. However, they use a murder hole above them to climb up and circumvent the bars. The top level of the tower has balconies to look out over the land below in all directions.
Bran had hoped to see the wall from the top, but they're still too far away. Thinking of the wall, Bran asks Jojen how they're going to get past it when they do get there. Jojen's non-committal with his answer. Possibly one of the abandoned castles will give them their way through. Bran thinks they should go to Castle Black, but Jojen says it's too dangerous. It only takes one man with loose lips to sell them out to the Ironborn or to the Boltons.
Jojen cuts the conversation off when he sees a man on horseback riding toward them in the distance. The man shelters from the rain in the ruins of an inn. Before long, the rain turns to thunder and lightning, which sends Hodor into a frenzy, shouting, "Hodor!" endlessly. One bright lightning flash shows that others have joined the man in the village. All are armed, but the rest seem to be on foot.
Others with a small O, right?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
good point. That's a designation you need to make there.
The storm continues to agitate Hodor to the point where the other. It's everywhere. Once you've said it once, it just sprouts up everywhere. Where the rest of them are afraid that the people in the village will be alerted and come for them. When Hodor flings Meera aside, Bran reaches for the big man's legs while pleading with him to be quiet. Suddenly, Hodor goes silent. He sits against the wall, shaking his head.
The Reeds don't understand what's happened, but Bran does. While reaching for Hodor, he reached him in a different way, the same way he does with Summer. For an instant, he was in Hodor's mind. It scares Bran as much as it confuses Hodor. Adding to it all, Jojen thought he saw a man pointing to the tower.
With Hodor now quiet, Bran's concern turns towards Summer, who's out there in the storm with the people. He feels the direwolf's fear. When Bran opens his third eye, Summer is cringing in the brush. He can see and smell the humans. Among all the other scents, there's the sharp red stench of fear.
Okay, well. Huh.
That's why we did a lot of witty banter.
Yeah, I was going to say, should we go back to the witty banter? Yeah, it just feels like Bran's chapters. I mean, we're only on Bran 3, so there's only been 3 of them, but they've been pretty unproductive to this point in this book. It's starting to feel a bit like Arya had been in the Riverlands for a while.
Yeah.
Lots of travel, not much plot advancement.
In Arya's case, of course, she went round and round the Riverlands, getting
Right.
closer and further away from Riverrun all the time.
Yes. Now, of course, Arya was building toward meeting and learning about Beric Dondarrion. Bran is building toward something as well. Obviously, we're hoping he's building toward a meeting with the three-eyed crow, but
Right.
that seems like it's still pretty far away, as they're still on the southern side of the wall and still got a ways to go before they get to that. Even
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe it's the talk of uncertainty about when they reach the wall that could be a candidate for maybe what we're building toward, or
Yeah.
some
I mean,
big action
obviously,
point.
that is a significant challenge for them. I mean, I think for someone very keen to get through the wall, there are ways, but when they abandon the castles, they probably make it difficult for people to go through the wall at those
Right.
points. Maybe they can
Yes.
find somewhere where there's still a ladder up to the wall from the fort or castle, and so they can get to the
Yeah.
top of the wall. But then how are you getting down from there?
Right. We saw in that John chapter, it wasn't a walk in the park
No.
getting up, or that's
No.
700 feet down an ice wall. So
Yes.
yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are
Well,
they, Mackelly?
where are they?
Yeah.
They've come a long way. I'll
Right.
give them that. There's definitely been a lot of travel. So this tower is in the northern part of the new gift, which is getting close. So there's the two gifts that make up the gift. There's Brandon's gift, which is 25 leagues south of the wall.
Yeah. From the
Then
wall to
from the
25
wall
leagues south.
south,
Right.
25. Yes. Then there's the new gift which Queen Alysanne convinced her husband to give the Night's Watch, which is 25 leagues south of that.
Right. Okay.
So the line that makes Brandon's gift, they doubled basically. So
So
now
they're
they
near
have
the
50
line.
leagues. They're near the line,
Right.
yes. And I will say, Bran is likely wrong. He's a young boy, so him saying things that are exaggerated are not unheard of. But he says he had hoped to see the wall from the top of the tower, and then he says out loud, I think, that was stupid. We're way too far away. We're still probably 50 leagues away. But based on the map anyway, they look closer. They look like they're nearing the northern part of the new gift, which means they're closing in on Brandon's gift, which is only 25 leagues away. So at most they're maybe 30 leagues or so
Okay.
south of the wall. So
So a league is about 3.5 miles, as I understand it.
okay,
So
okay,
they're
that's good to know.
75, 80 miles from the wall. I wonder how close you have to be to the wall to see it. I mean, 80
Yeah,
miles sounds like too much, but from the top of a tower 80 miles away, still too
yeah.
much. But
I guess curvature of the earth and all, right? Is
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah. But I'm betting from 30 miles away you could see it.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
it is. Yeah,
Hmm.
if you look at where they've come since they left uh, Winterfell, especially being that they're on foot, they have traveled a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
significant distance.
Hodor must be just muscle bound, hoarded. You know. So it's noteworthy to me that the land is so empty and they think that the natives have been chased off by wildling raiders. But I wonder if that's realistic. I mean, we've just said that they're 70 something miles south of the wall. How many
Right.
wildling raiders would you find this
That
distance?
far south, right?
And I
Yeah,
mean,
it's especially since a lot of the wildly raiders would be on foot,
right. I mean, and what are they raiding for? I mean, presumably they want food and slaves or something.
right? Steal the daughters of
Yeah,
as
but a
the
long way to
women,
come. I mean, you've climbed that wall and now you're going to schlep a 150-mile round trip.
right? And then climb back over with an unwilling participant,
Right.
right? Well, I guess at some point when the captives are halfway up the wall, they probably stop fighting at
They
that
probably,
point.
yeah, self-interest kicks in. Yes.
Right. Yes. Okay. 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 I'm
It,
coming. I'm
it just
coming.
it just seems like an inordinate amount of work for the Wildling Raiders to put in. I mean, uh,
That's yeah. Right.
and also given that this is the gift, I mean, if the village here presumably were farmers and they farmed for the Night's Watch
Right.
in its glory, don't the Night's Watch have a sort of duty to protect these people? I mean, if Wildling Raiders
Right.
get over that wall so frequently that people 75 miles away feel the need to flee their homes. The Night's Watch is somewhat derelict in its duty, I feel.
Yes. And I think that was a kind of a point Bran sort of raised when he said the Night's Watch isn't what it was in Brandon the Builder's day, nor Queen Alisanne's day. So,
But there you are. Maybe the point is they don't need that food anymore. Brandon's gift
okay.
gives them all of the food they need. They don't need. So this is why these villages got abandoned, because there was no reason for them. They were no longer needed to feed the Night's Watch because the Night's Watch is so paltry by comparison to what it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
then
could
why
see
wouldn't
that.
you, as a farmer, stay?
Right.
You've got all this
Yeah.
land.
Right. And good land, according to Jojen.
Right.
And, it's also a problem. We've talked a lot about letting the wildlings south of the wall, let
Hmm.
they're other humans, let them to the safety of the southern side of the wall. But this is possibly one of the problems with that is, okay, you let them in south of the wall. They've harassed these northerners so extensively that they left their lands. Where did these other northerners go? Likely somewhere else in the north. So the wildlings granted entrance to south of the wall. Many of their neighbors would be resentful of these people who have raided them to the point of displacing them.
Redepopulated villages come in very handy at this point. We've got
Yes,
100,000 people to feed. I'm glad that you chased off all these villagers and you can have their villages now.
right. Yes, there's plenty of space for you to set up shop here.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Jojen, we notice, feels the storm coming, perhaps using some kind of sixth sense, or just because he's a Cranach man, it pays when you live knee deep in water to know how the weather's going to be.
It does, doesn't it?
Just a
that's
thought.
that's a sixth sense that's developed early in such a situation. I was wondering if it might be an effect of his ability to have green dreams, some
Right.
sort of connection with the world around him, especially the nature side of things.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Bran put it as listening to music that only he could hear when he went silent and then said, "There's a storm coming. It's bad. We got to find shelter."
Right.
And of course, Old Nan comes to the rescue with the hidden causeway to the tower.
I have a secret hope that Old Nan's going strong somewhere in Winterfell.
Me too. Yeah, yeah.
She'll tell
Or
she'll tell scary stories about what happened, that's for sure.
at least maybe she's at the Dreadfort with the Boltons. Maybe they'd taken her captive just to tell them all stories as
Scaring the bejesus out of
entertainment.
them. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We see Martin using Old Nan's stories to drive the plot forward when Bran pieces this together that this is the tower from one of her stories about good Queen Alisanne. And it just, this part just reminded me of how often the Stark kids and Jon relate what they're experiencing to what they grew up hearing from Old Nan.
Yeah. I
Just
mean,
last chapter, Arya was thinking about Thoros of Myr, how he doesn't look like the wizards from Nan's stories, but then still asked him anyway about bringing Ned back from the dead.
yeah. But I think
And
isn't that just any child would do that? Sort of like you have a new experience, you compare it to what you already
oh
heard,
yeah,
knew.
yeah.
It's
So,
not special to the Starks, I don't think.
no, I agree, and it just this is where they've learned a lot of the things that they, uh, you know, a lot of the things that weren't taught in Maester Lewin's books and proper education, I guess. A lot of the experiences.
Wonder, I wonder what that tower was like in Alasan's day, because it's a little bit of a pain to have to schlep through water to get to your tower.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can see that it's a nice sort of like protection that you'd have to know the lay of the land in order to find the way to it, but it's also inconvenient
It
for
is.
you as a person, having to
Yes.
always roll your socks up beyond your knees to get home.
Yeah, maybe that's why they abandoned this village. It had nothing to do with raiders. They were just tired of either getting wet or getting in a boat every time they wanted to go out their front door.
There's a
I will say that that they're awfully lucky that this detail of one of Nan's stories was accurate and true, because a lot of the details of the stories she tells them are totally made up or exaggerated.
good point. Good point. Um, there's a in the at the junction between Brittany and Normandy in France. There's uh, an abbey called Mont Saint Michel, and it used to have a causeway that ran to it, which at high tide, because it's on the sea, at high tide the causeway would be covered. So you there were times of day when you could go there, and then times of day when you could get back. But they've built it up now, so it doesn't happen as much anymore. But
You know how I know about that, Abby?
do
You
tell.
told me.
Yeah,
You told
I
me
figured
about it
I'd told
years
you
ago.
before. Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful place to go. Funnily enough, the reason it's in my mind is because when I was thinking about how far away from the wall you'd have to be to see it, how far away from Mont Saint Michel you see it is incredible. You're driving
Oh,
towards it, and about half an hour before you get there, you start to see it.
you could see it. Huh. Very cool.
Not on foot, being carried by Hodor, like in a car.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the discussion about how they're going to get through the wall is interesting. I mean, I think Bran wants to go to Castle Black because he wants to see Jon. Totally understandable.
Right.
But the Reeds are right. They can't be seen. This has to be a secret mission because there's just, for example, if I were visiting Simon and Mackelly's brown cloak haberdashery in Molestown, I need a cover story. And if I could take the young Prince Bran Stark to the Boltons or the Ironborn, they would protect me.
Right. Oh, sure.
Uh,
Yes.
and I'm out of the
Yeah.
Night's Watch, thankfully.
I think in the Sam chapters and even to the John chapters, to some extent, we have met enough men with dubious character
Oh yeah.
that they would probably jump at such an
Although,
opportunity.
of course, what do they know about the politics of the North? I mean,
True, they might. That's a good point. They might not know anything that's going on
you know,
up there, so far removed from it all. That is true. But, Jojen's plan seems to be one of we'll figure it out when we get there, which is not the most comforting of plans. I mean, his thought is, well, one of the empty castles might be the thing that gives us the access we need, and the castles aren't that close together. If they have to go castle to castle looking for some secret way through,
yeah,
or any way through, that could be quite an issue.
yeah. I mean, presumably the blockage of the paths through is primarily from north to south, but they can't make the passage from south to north so easy that anyone walking by could leave the gate open.
Right. Yes. And Meera says, Bran says that his uncle Benjen told him that when the castles are abandoned, the gates are sealed with ice and stone. And Meera says, well, then we'll just have to open them again. And I thought, sure, why didn't the wildlings just think of that?
Well,
we'll
but
just
but the ice and stone
knock
is
some
on
of that
this
ice and
side of the
stone away.
door. The ice and stone's on this side of the door. They can't move that stuff. If you're on the south side, you can move the ice and stone away.
Oh, I see. I was thinking they maybe collapsed the
Yeah, if they've
tunnels.
done
Yeah.
that, then that's a lifetime's work. I mean, the
Right.
wall
Right.
has got to
Yes.
be
Yeah.
super thick at the bottom. I mean, it's going to take forever if that
Yes.
thing. Yeah,
Well, and Brand has a smart response when she says that. He thinks we shouldn't do that. Bad things might come through the other side. And
right.
under normal circumstances, the bad things might just be the wildlings. But we know right now there's a lot worse things in the north than just the wildlings these
Amen.
days. But it's really bad timing to go to Castle Black in hopes of seeing Benjen and Jon, because neither of them are there right now. Right. And, he knows that. He was told, he reminds us in this chapter that he was in Winterfell when Tyrion's Night's Watch escort came to Winterfell, and they told Robb and Bran about
Benjen's
having
absence.
gone missing.
Yeah.
Yes, but he figures he must have turned up by now. Right. Of course, in an odd twist of fate, we know Jon's just crossed back over to the south side of the wall. So really, Bran has a better chance of running into Jon on his way to the wall than, actually at Castle Black. So
we'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
So then things take a turn as this group of people arrive. One is mounted, the rest are on foot. They have axes and spears. Bran thinks, perhaps wishfully, that they could be Knots, Norries, Flints, some of these northern mountain clans that got mentioned last time.
Right.
The Littles, he met a little last time.
He met a little man.
Yeah. So I'm curious as to who this group is, because obviously one of the fears that they have is it's a group looking for them.
Right.
They've been trying to evade capture. But then also it could be they were saying, this village was depopulated by wildlings raids. So it could be a group of wildlings.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Who do you think it is?
Well, so you're right. There's a small handful of options, I guess. It could be wildlings. Could be, I hadn't even thought about it being Bolton's groups or Ironborn looking for them. Yeah. The fact that they're on foot might be a sign that they're Ironborn, because Ironborn don't have a great deal of horses available to them. So, another group that it could be is these northern mountain clans moving their way to Winterfell. We were told when, in a Winterfell chapter, I think it was a Bran chapter, that the town outside of Winterfell gets full during the winter as those without means of weathering the cold migrate in. Yeah. Although, if they're native to this area, I still find it odd that they all but one have a horse. So that goes back to the wildlings, because remember, Jarl knew not to steal horses from the first village that they came across. So, maybe he died, but maybe some of his surviving raiders knew that as well. Why do they have one horse? Possibly they stole one horse for the lead scout, and he built a fire to alert the party.
So you would think it could actually be Jon's party, even?
It could be.
Yeah.
I don't know how many raiding groups have gone over the wall, but we know that at least one raiding party leader knew enough to not steal the first horses that they came across. Of course, as you said, they're like 75, 80 miles south of the wall. That's a lot of walking. Yeah, you might steal a horse or two.
I mean, maybe they stole a horse from the second village they came to.
Right. So that is the weird distinction. Why are all these people on foot except for one?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll find out.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we can speculate, but we don't know. So they did have a hope that they wouldn't be found, partly because of this causeway. The causeway, without knowing it, you're not going to find an easy way to the tower. So even though they may have been heard, but because of Hodor's yelling, they may still be safe, at least until morning, and then maybe these people operate by night and will be gone by morning. So we're not 100% sure how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, it's certainly a dangerous situation, sitting under a tree in a storm like these people seem to be doing. There was an apple tree growing up through the common room of the inn, and that's where the fire was being built. So, it's kind of dangerous to be sitting in there. But then it's also dangerous to be trying to swim across or get across this water in the middle of a lightning storm as well. So,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
But
and as you said, Jojen, the beacon of light that he is, points out that they could wait till morning and
see the
figure out.
causeway. Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if they could, if they didn't know it was there, if they would be able to realize it's there.
The key thing about that is if they wait till morning, they don't need the shelter anymore. The storm will have passed.
Right.
They'll just
Yes.
leave at that point. Unless
Yes.
Hodor's still yelling.
Right. Well, now we know Bran knows how to shut him up.
Right.
Truly shut him up. And Jojen's right, but they could wait till morning. Maybe they could see the causeway. Maybe they could figure out how to navigate it. But why would they care enough to do so? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And the Jojen thinks that he sees a man pointing at the tower. That man could be saying anything. He
Hey,
could be
look,
pointing at
a
the tower
tower.
saying, boy, I sure wish we had a boat to get in there.
Let me tell you the story of Queen Alysanne.
Yes, that's what's happening. Who knows? Jojen always goes to like the worst possible option. Every time Jojen speaks, in my mind, I hear the noise wah wah. So Bran is scared. Hodor is scared, and Bran thinks to himself, I'm scared too, but I don't want to show any fear in front of Meera." And we've seen him kind of do other things and think other things that maybe he's got a little boy crush on Meera.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
No, no, no.
So the whole chapter's something of a non-event, but the big reveal of the chapter appears to be Bran's ability to warg into Hodor.
Right.
Then I started to wonder about that. I mean, this is a little bit like the whole Thoros of Myr and Beric Dondarrion thing. Is it just a one-off thing that he can do with Hodor? Perhaps because Hodor is simple-minded, and so it's easier to do it. You can do
Right.
it to
Sure.
animals or simple-minded people. A more highly functioning person you might not be able to do it. Or is it because he's got a tight bond with Hodor in the same way he has a tight bond with Summer?
Yes, I wondered these exact
Yeah.
same
And so,
thoughts.
but if it is something he can do to anyone, then it actually gives him sort of a way to defend himself.
Oh, sure.
Someone comes at
Yeah.
him, you suddenly convince them to turn the knife on themselves.
Right. Yeah. There's a show called, oh, what was it called? It was
It's a
a
good name.
Marvel. What was that?
Oh, what was
It
it
was
called?
Jessica Jones. Is that
Yes,
what
there was
it's
a show
called?
called that.
Yes, where her main nemesis, at least in the first season, was a person who could control other people's minds and make them do things, you know, using mind control.
Yeah.
So maybe, and that was pretty effective.
Yeah.
He had a lot of success with that kind of tactic. So
As a
um,
teenager, I really loved a series of novels, the first of which was called The Many-Colored Land by a lady whose name was Julian May. She sounded like she was a guy, but she was a lady. And the mind reading, mind control was a big part of that. And it fell into
oh
5 categories. And one of them, the coolest one actually, was coercion.
oh
Yeah.
right,
The
yes,
people
yeah,
who were good at
sure.
coercion, they were Slytherin house, basically.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're right. We'll have to see. Maybe it was an excessively stressful, dangerous event that spurred this. The danger of them being found, Hodor flinging Meera aside and could have possibly hurt her. So it wasn't normal circumstances where he discovered this. Now that he's done this with Hodor, will he try it with others? Or, did this scare him off too much to
Yeah,
try it
I mean,
again, even with Hodor?
you've got to think Jojen was very keen for him to explore the limits of what he could do. So why would he not want him to keep doing this? I don't think you should do it to Hodor. You should probably do it to
Right.
someone who's a willing participant, maybe.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So the smell of fear. So as Bran enters Summer's mind, he smells fear. So again, we don't know who these people are, but Summer smells fear on them all, and that's kind of strange. I wondered if it was a different wildling group than John's, and they were running from the others. But my God, to stay afraid for 75 miles, I mean, you've got to.
Yeah, it's unclear. I've gone through this chapter a lot of times, probably 6 or 7 times, and it's unclear who's having this fear. Maybe everyone is having this
Right.
fear because of this storm. Is it these anonymous people? Can Summer smell Hodor's fear from all the way to the tower?
Well,
Is it?
well, that was. I did wonder that. I wonder if when Bran entered Summer, he brought with him Hodor's fear.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Sure.
directly smelling it, but when Bran arrives, he's bringing Hodor's fear because Bran's still got a trace of that on him from when he was
Sure.
in Hodor.
In the tower. Yeah. Okay. And the other third option is it uh, Summer's fear? When Bran first checks on Summer, the description, the very first description is that he's cringing
Right.
in the bush, which is kind of a fearful sounding term. It didn't say he was hiding or lurking or stalking. It said he was cringing. And then I thought, but would he smell his own fear?
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, ask Chet about that, I guess.
Yeah.
He certainly probably smelled his own fear.
Yeah, I have to say, I thought he was smelling human fear over his
Yeah.
own fear. Summer was definitely afraid
Right.
himself, but I think he was smelling
Yes.
human fear. But I think my reading of the book was that it was these humans who'd come to town that were afraid, but it seemed strange that they would be so afraid. I mean, there was a storm and they were kind of out in the open, but the,
Yeah.
the book
Could
emphasized it in a way that made them seem like they were very afraid of something.
Yes. Yes. Could it be him, Summer, inspiring the fear? He is a huge direwolf. Has someone spotted him?
But he's cringing in the bushes, you know?
Yes. Yes. If he's the one inspiring the fear, it would be a good contrast to the helpless fear felt in the top of the
True
tower
enough.
there.
True enough. Well, hopefully we'll get to find out all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully.
You have some background for us?
I do. I gathered up a couple pieces here. Oh, well, one thing Bran told this is really a refresher, but Bran told the group the story of another Brandon Stark, Brandon the Shipwright, who sailed off beyond the Sunset Sea. We talked about him in Bran 7 of A Game of Thrones, which I believe was the chapter when they were in the crypts. He was never seen again, Brandon the Shipwright, when he sailed off beyond the Sunset Sea. His son was so distraught over the loss of his father, he burned his father's shipyard and remaining ships, and he was aptly dubbed Brandon the Burner. So there's that. That is a rehash because, probably forgotten. It's been quite a while, more than 16 chapters. Also, Bran mentions both that Queen Alysanne spent the night in this tower and that she gave the Night's Watch this tract of land known as the New Gift. We've talked about good Queen Alysanne before, a long time ago in an episode far, far away, Jon 5 of A Game of Thrones, and more recently in Jon 2 of A Clash of Kings. So, here's a refresher and some additional info as well. Queen Alysanne was the sister wife to King Jaehaerys I. Jaehaerys did much to repair a broken and misunderstood realm as he succeeded King Maegor. Bet you saw
I
that
see what
one
you did
coming
there.
when I started that sentence, huh? A lot of the king's ability to patch up issues and mend fences stemmed from his wife. Alysanne had an amazing ability to connect with people and win them over. One such instance that I will mention here is the royal progress she took to the north that Bran references in this chapter. It was in 58 AC, and the Queen and King Jaehaerys were supposed to travel together. However, he got tied up in King's Landing. Fearing that Lord Alaric Stark might take offense if they delayed, Alysanne started the journey alone with the plan that the king would catch up when he could. Traveling on the back of her dragon Silverwing, she stopped first in White Harbor. There, she held a Southern-style woman's court in Lord Manderley's hall, where more than 200 women and girls gathered to share their thoughts, concerns, and grievances with the queen. So you can see she was very much a queen of the people. We'll probably dig more into the gift in an upcoming chapter where the land comes into focus yet again.
Well, thank you for that. Apart from the television show, this is broadly in place. The tower was just a village windmill, really. They didn't have the Queen Alysanne story.
Okay. I
Rickon and
vaguely remember
Osha
that.
are still present as part of this group. And so
Right.
there are two direwolves outside. Jojen at one point beseeches Bran to silence Hodor. So Bran does in the way he does in the book. So it's kind of like Jojen encouraged it, it seemed.
Okay.
It's not like Bran had any special power over Hodor other than what he did, you know. But Jojen asks
Right.
Bran to shut him up. Uh,
Okay.
Bran in the show is not quite as far along in the voluntary warging. So this was a big event in the show because he hadn't voluntarily warged into summer at this point. Hodor was the
Oh,
first to get warged.
wow. That's a
He
big
he'd done it
difference.
in his dreams, but never voluntarily. Uh, they are in some danger from the outsiders. So Bran applies his newfound skill to then just communicate with the wolves. Um, and then what happens after that, I will leave because it might get into spoileriness. I'm not sure where the story heads from here. So,
Okay. Good stuff.
uh, pedantry corner, you have something.
I do. And as always, I couch my pedantry by saying this is a minor bit of pedantry. You
If,
get
if
so
if there were whole
you get,
gaping plot points, the book would have, wouldn't be a great book. They're all going to be minor.
That's right. It's just a little thing, but so we know in order to get from the land over to the tower, they had to take the causeway, where the description of of their trip across the causeway says that the reeds got up to chest high into the lake, and Hodor got up to waist high while crossing the lake. Uh, but there's no mention once they get into the tower of them being soaked or cold, and twice Bran mentions being cold, but he's the only one who, as best I can tell, would have stayed dry.
The only bit
So
of him that might have got wet is the bit that doesn't have any feeling anyway.
right. So there was no mention of them like trying to hang out, dry out their clothes or them sopping around or anything. And when they're up on the top of the tower was one of the times when Bran mentions being cold. And the description also says the wind was whipping so much that it flipped his cloak up and his cloak was
Right.
flapping behind him. So it was cold and windy and they're soaked.
And they're pretty far north. And winter is
Yes.
coming, right?
Yes, yes. And the very first paragraph of the chapter says that they kind of the scene was being set by Bran's mind, and it was a nice day and almost warm.
Uh-huh.
But almost warm means still cold. And then the rain and the wind starts, which would make you even more cold. So I just thought, why aren't they sopping around or trying to wring their clothes out or something while they're up here?
I rock solid. Can't argue.
Well, thank you.
How about some news and notes?
Well, the first thing that we wanted to mention is that we have 2 new Buy Me a Coffee Lord Paramount sustainers.
Oh, all hail.
That's right. Bobby and Trevor, thank you so much for your support.
Much
We
appreciated.
very much look forward to interacting with you on our live video chats and all the other ways that we interact with our sustainers. So, we very, very happy to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you guys. Nice to meet you. So we mentioned last week artist Ertak Ultinos, who posted a beautiful Winds of Winter book cover on social media last week. And this time he's provided another beautiful cover, this time for
A Dream of Spring.
A Dream of Spring. You always have to help me with these. We've posted it on our socials.
Yes. They're very beautiful.
Excellent.
Now, unfortunately, him posting this one of A Dream of Spring does hurt the mystery of whether the Winds of Winter book cover was, like a leak that this was actually about to come out and this is what the book cover was going to look like, because I don't think A Dream of Spring is about to come out.
Oh, no,
So
but they may have chosen the book cover for it.
maybe, possibly. Also, Game of Thrones alum Lena Headey, who played Cersei, of course, in a Game of Thrones, is set to star in a new Netflix Western show called The Abandons. The show was created by Kurt Sutter, who, as just a quick aside, he also created a show that I was very fond of called The Sons of Anarchy, which I don't know if you'd ever seen before, but is a really great show about a motorcycle gang in California.
You talked to me
anyway,
about it. I've never seen it.
Yes, that's usually how my recommendations go. I talk to you about them and you never. That's how most of my recommendations go.
That's something else you have in common with my wife.
Well, anyway, Kurt Sutter is going to act as executive producer and showrunner. The story is set in the 1850s in Oregon. Headey will play a character named Fiona, who is a strong, devout matriarch who is unable to have children and so adopts 4 orphans and creates her own family. Netflix gave the show a 10-episode order back in October of 2022, so we've got that to look forward to.
Yeah, I'll watch that because I love Lena Headey. I think she's
Me too.
I think she's amazing, and I'll watch anything she's in.
I agree. I don't think I've ever seen anything with her in it that I didn't enjoy.
Did you watch the Judge Dredd film with her?
I guess I did. Yeah, was it the Stallone one or after that?
After that, it was the guy. It was a guy from Lord of the Rings. It was one of the Australian, New Zealand. I grouped those guys together.
Viggo Mortensen? Is it him?
I think he was Aomer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah, I did see the later version of Judge Dredd. I don't remember a lot about it, but I believe I did see it.
Keith Urban? No, not
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban?
Keith Urban?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's Judge Dredd.
Keith Urban's the singer. Carl Urban's the actor, I believe.
Tomato.
I could have it wrong entirely.
So, as mentioned, we will be having a live Lord Paramount Sustainer video chat coming up. We hope that they can all join us for that. We always enjoy those. It's fun to talk to them.
Sure do.
And
it's so much fun.
It definitely is.
And finally, just please keep rating and reviewing us where you can, especially on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really does help us out immensely, and we are greatly appreciative for such things.
Well, let's draw a line under this one. So Bran and Co. have come a long way from Winterfell, but they've still got a long way to go, even to get to the wall. And then the considerable challenge of getting to the other side of the wall. And then who knows how far the other side of the wall.
Yeah, the 700-foot vertical climb and then 700-foot descent might take as long to figure out how to navigate that as it did to walk from Winterfell to the wall.
Sure enough.
Although the descent could happen really fast.
Yes. A long time to plan, not very long to execute.
Right.
Yeah, it's hopefully something's going to fall into their laps because there's no obvious way to theorize how to do this. Because like you said, if they've collapsed those tunnels, then it's... But I have a recollection. Help me along here. The Rangers who go north of the wall, they know ways back through the wall at various points. They don't have to go to the 3 manned castles to get back through the wall.
You are correct.
So there must be paths that are available. And if they're available from the north, they're definitely available from the south.
That's true. Although they're probably not easy to find, or rangers or wildlings might have uncovered them.
Again, you only have to make them hard to find from the north. You could have a big flashing sign saying "Enter here" in the south.
Well, except for raiders coming back from the south over the wall to the northern side.
They could leave like a trail of breadcrumbs.
Right.
Bring the "Enter here" sign through with them. Put it on the other side.
Yeah. Is there any chance the Night's Watch will allow these kids to just traipse through to the wild northern side if they did go to Castle Black. I think it's a little bit sweet that Bran is hoping to see Jon at Castle Black, and then thinking that Jon is just going to let Bran and his buddies in Hodor traipse off into the wild north beyond the wall.
I have two answers to the original question you posed there about would the Night's Watch let them. I would say as a group, as a whole, no, of course not. These are, they wouldn't let anyone go north of the wall. It's crazy. No one should do that.
Right.
I'll say on the individual level, there's about a 70% chance that individuals in the Night's Watch would let them go through because they don't care. Your Chets of this world will be like, sure, if you want.
Whatever. That's possible. That is possible. I was just thinking, like, this isn't like a tourist trap where they do like tours of the haunted forest and stuff, Well, they're probably not.
Welcome to Castle Black. Let me dust off my script.
Right. So I don't imagine they get this request very often, and I really can't imagine they would agree to such things very often.
So Bran is able to warg people, or at least one person. Can he use it for good? Obviously, it's not very nice to do it to Hodor when Hodor's not expecting it, even if necessary, perhaps under the circumstances. But can he use it to his advantage? Can he use it aggressively? Can he use it passively? Maybe he can find out if Meera likes him.
Oh, that is a very interesting use of his new gift there. It's a possibly fascinating development, and I think it is one of the primary pillars of this chapter. To show that Bran has done this, because otherwise not a great deal went on in this chapter.
No.
Although there are a bunch of strangers outside the walls there.
Pointing at them.
The strangers... Yeah. Did they discover them? Could it mean anything? Or was someone just pointing at the tower saying, boy, I wish we were in there. It looks a lot drier than where we are this way.
I will say in the TV show, this might be a bit of a spoiler for the book. The guy said, the guy who points at the tower is asked, why are you pointing at the tower sort of thing. He said, I heard shouting. And he said, it was thunder. And he said, I know the difference between shouting and thunder.
As you might. I was almost thinking, if they just let Hodor and didn't audibly tell him to shut up, people might just think it was wolves howling.
True. Or the ghost.
Hodor doesn't exactly
occupies the tower.
Right. Yeah. Although we think of them as being the kids as being safer and drier, but they are at the top of the tallest structure in the area, in the middle of a lake in an electrical storm. So not exactly the safest place to be.
Might dry their clothes quickly.
It might.
All right, who have we got next week?
Well, next week we are off to see Jon, and, well, we don't have to travel all that far to meet up with him.
Did you just spoil? Feel like you might have.
All I'm saying is he's not all that far away.
You think the phases of the moon would be very similar where Jon is?
I think they might be.
Okay.
And I will say he makes a big decision.
All right.
And you want to tune in to find out what that decision is. Yes. Trust me.
There's 3 ways that you can help us. You could leave us a review. You could buy merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. You could buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostsharrenhal. Or even become a sustainer at the Lord Paramount or Knight of the Realm level and join us for the fun that brings you.
That's right. And of course, as always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhal@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @ghostharrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.